I am here today with Morgan Horn, and she is a sex and intimacy coach. And I am so excited for this conversation because I know this is such an important topic for stillbirth moms and for all of the things that come into play as we are dealing with our body issues after loss, trying to think about having a new baby, all of these things come into play and they all boil down to sex and intimacy. So, welcome, Morgan. I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. This invitation is fantastic. Like I said, I think the work that you do is brilliant. We need people like you who do this work. So thank you. And it's truly an honor to be here.
Thank you so much for saying that. And I'm so excited that we have someone like you who can talk about it much more comfortably than I can and give some real advice about this topic. So I think what I would love for you to first is when a woman deals with a stillbirth loss, very often it is a feeling that her body betrayed her and that might be the first part back to intimacy. What do you think after a trauma? The first part back to intimacy might be forgiving your body before you can even go to the part where you are ready to try for another baby.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think feeling like your body has betrayed you, having this kind of anger towards your body, that complicated relationship is definitely one of the main things that I hear across. And there's many others like the fear of intimacy and fear of maybe getting pregnant again, of getting hurt again, the disconnection that you can feel with your partner, especially around intimacy, because we grieve not only differently, but at different paces. So for one partner, maybe intimacy is something that helps in the grieving process, feeling close to the other person, feeling alive again. And for another partner, for example, it can be a big no, like, how can we even consider intimacy right now? This is so inappropriate. This is not okay. So there's so many things that come at play. But as far as the anger towards the body for betraying us, for not working as we expected it to work, there's so many like dimensions to this dynamic, right? I think first there's the socialization that women have been socialized for centuries to basically be mothers, right? Aside from looking good, we have to put babies into this world. And so when your body doesn't perform in that sense, it feels like you're broken, like you failed, that your body has failed you, that it has betrayed you. So I think, yes, definitely rebuilding trust with your body and understanding that your body hasn't failed you. It's perhaps the expectations of society that have failed us more than our bodies. And I think there's many ways that we can rebuild that relationship. Of course, therapy, coaching, thought work, all of that. But practically, one of the tools that I find the most helpful in rebuilding this trust is really getting to do something with your body where you can be in awe of your body again.
Mm.
Like in practical terms, every time I see someone who has gone through some kind of trauma or disconnection in that sense, feeling like their body has betrayed them, and it doesn't have to be like stillbirth or even sexual abuse or big T trauma like this, but even for when you have chronic inflammation or illness or anything that makes you feel that your body is not performing the way you would like it to perform, one of the first things that I recommend is doing something where your body can amaze you again. So you can watch your body do amazing things for you. And that can be picking up a sports activity or doing anything that's out of the ordinary that you currently have, where you can watch your body and all the amazing stuff that it does for you, like being strong, lifting weights, like doing
Love that.
something.
Yeah. As you were talking about that, it made me think of so many things, but just I think we are so amazed at our what our body does when we're pregnant and
Yes,
growing a human, and then it didn't work out.
exactly.
It didn't it then it felt like a disappointment because that didn't actually work the way we expected it to. So what could you do instead to find that amazement back in your body again? I love that.
Yeah, it's rebuilding that trust with your body because
Yeah.
your body is there to support you every day. Your body never fails you, it's always there for you. Okay, this one thing didn't work this one time, but it doesn't mean that your body constantly fails you or that you can't trust your body anymore. And
Yeah.
finding ways to see how your body shows up for you every day is something that's truly powerful. And another way to build a relationship of trust with the body, I find, is through gratitude. So
Mm.
one of the main things that, I do when I'm in a situation like this is practices that build gratitude because I see gratitude as a sort of doorway to love. This can even be when you don't like the way your body looks, for example. This is a problem that most women face on this earth today,
Yeah.
right? Not liking how your body looks because society has told you that all is wrong with your body. And one way to step into trust and love towards your body is really first starting with gratitude. For example, you can list 3 things every day that your body has done for you. And
Mm.
as you do this, you start seeing all the amazing things that your body does on a day-to-day basis, and that helps you build trust overall.
Yeah, that's a great idea. You touched on socialization a couple times, and I do
Yes.
think that is also a big part of the things that we deal with. And certainly, we deal with a lot of comments from others about,
Yes.
what happened, and that those come from generations of society that tells us just to hurry up and get over grief and move on and just package it up and get rid of it. But I also think too, you mentioned like becoming a mother means that you're not supposed to be sexy anymore. Like that part of you
Mm.
is not supposed to be like you're becoming a mother, you're getting ready to become a mother. So how do you get that back? How even when you have a living child, that's difficult to get back. So how do you do it in a place where you've experienced trauma or loss?
Yeah, and even just before I answer this, it's when you've lost a baby, you've also been through pregnancy. So your whole body has changed. Maybe you put on 40 pounds with the pregnancy, stretch marks, your skin texture has changed, your whole body is different. And you have lost your baby. So you don't even get the validation from society that, oh, no, you just had a baby. You don't even have that baby to show for. So you have all the changes in your body and all the not understanding the reactions of your body anymore, and plus the trauma. So it's a very difficult thing to navigate. And one of the things that I always recommend is stepping out of the brain and back into the body,
Mm.
because all the thoughts that you have and all the thoughts from other people that you integrate, these are just sentences that we hear and then that we adopt and that become sentences in our brain, right? And all this talk about you not being sexy anymore when you're a mom, and all the things that you believe that you have integrated or that you start believing about your body because you see the changes and your body no longer looks the way it used to. All of this is just noise in your head.
Yes.
And yes, we can coach on it. And of course, we can go into the whole limiting beliefs talk and how to shift your thoughts. But sometimes I just think stepping out of the brain and into the body is the most powerful thing you can do. Because I know it sounds a bit controversial, especially when you go through trauma like stillbirth, where your immediate knee-jerk reaction might be to want to not feel, but actually feeling is where the healing happens. So I always encourage women to go back to feeling. And one very simple way that you can do this is by focusing on your senses. And we're not talking about 30-minute meditations and all of that. I know that a lot of people just don't have the time for this,
Mm.
especially if you're new at meditating and things like this, it can feel daunting. But just for a couple of seconds a day to practice being in your body, and that can be with anything that you do on a daily basis. Look, so like brushing your teeth or sipping a cup of tea, anything that you do, taking a shower in the morning, instead of doing it like robotically without paying attention to your senses, you're going to go deep into your senses. So as you take your shower and you shampoo your head, you pay attention to the warm water on your skin, to the feeling of your hair as you massage your scalp, you say in English, or when you're sipping your cup of tea, you pay attention to the senses, to the warmth on your tongue. And doing these things helps you step back into your body And as you step back into your body, not only are you not in your brain with all the negative self-talk and messages that you hear out there, but you're also more in touch with your own essence. And inside you resides that sexual energy, that sensual energy. It's in all of us. We're born with it,
Yeah.
but society teaches us to suppress it. So, by stepping out of the brain and into the body, not only do you cancel out the noise, but also you tune into yourself. And so, this is where you're going to feel the sensation of feeling alive, of feeling sexy, of being into your body. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really, that's good. You're right. Because I think it's tempting to disconnect from it when you are disappointed with it, or if you do feel like your body betrayed you, it's easy to just want to disconnect from that. But I like what you're saying, like just find it in simple things that you do every day. It doesn't have to be some really in-depth practice that gets you back to it.
Yeah, I think it's helpful.
Yeah. And then I think too, so then this is another hot topic with my clients
Yes,
is really like when they decide to become pregnant again, sex
yes.
becomes utilitarian. There is really, you have one job, you have one goal in mind, and I think that's very hard. I think sometimes our partners feel like they're being used for, and I think what maybe I don't know. I think it's can be really hard because our partners grieve so differently than we do that there may not even be the connection there yet, but we know what we want. We have one goal in mind. And
Mm.
what is a way to to try to get reconnected so that you both are feeling good about being intimate again and that you both are feeling good about moving toward another pregnancy.
Yeah. So there are so many things I want to say
I
about this
know.
question. One thing I'll say is always communication. It
Mm,
might seem like an obvious one, but it's unbelievable the number of people who I talk to who do not talk about intimacy with their partners. And sometimes it blows my mind because if you think about it, intimacy is about being naked together. It's about exchanging fluids and touching each other's genitals, all of that. And that we're okay to do, but we don't want to talk about it.
that's so funny. Yeah, you're
So for
right.
me, it's just like, why? So the first thing is always have an honest conversation about where you're at, how you feel, where you can both share exactly what's going on for you so you can help each other because your partner will never read your mind. No matter how much we expect them to, they never do. And it's the opposite is also true. We can't read their mind. So the first thing is to be really clear about what we're feeling right now, what's the expectation, what we need, and to trying to find each other in the middle. And then there's many things I want to say. Another thing I was going to say is center pleasure in everything that you do. Because we often chase desire, but we don't always feel that desire. And I can go into more detail about this if you'd like, because I think loss of libido after stillbirth is one of the main things that you'll encounter. And I can explain
Yeah,
why and how to get it back. But the first thing I'd say is always center pleasure because if the experience that you have is pleasurable, you will want to go for more. Seeking pleasure with your partner is something that's really fundamental, I believe. But also, I'll say this, and again, this might sound controversial. You have different intentions for your sex life as it moves along, just because your sex life is not different than your career or another area in your life, right? It
yeah.
will evolve, it will have ebbs and flows, and it will also have different sort of purposes, right?
Mhm.
At a
Yeah,
stage in your life, maybe you're pursuing the career of your dreams because you want to dream big. Maybe at a different stage, it's just to pay the bills. It's okay to change in terms of your intention. And I was going to say it's the same for your sex life. If right now the focus is on having a baby and you're on a schedule and you want to be at your fertility peaks and it feels a little more medical and less
yeah.
sexy and woohoo, it's okay. If you decide to do this, it's okay if your sex life doesn't look amazingly fun and crazy and fireworks throughout your entire life. I think it's okay if your sex life doesn't look like a sex life on TV all the time or even ever, because, that's a whole
You just
different
made
discussion.
every person listening to this just breathe a huge sigh of relief. Just want you to know.
I'm glad.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
no,
everything
go
all the
ahead.
time. Yeah, I'm sure that's just, I think we do have this unrealistic expectation, of course, due to society and social media and
Yes.
all the things that it should be so amazing all the time. And yeah, I've been married for 35 years, so I have the t-shirt about the stages. You do have definite
Yes.
stages of everything. Why do we lose our libido after a stillbirth?
So there's many reasons, but basically, I'll put it very simply. You want to think about your sexual desire like a car engine, right? So you have your gas pedal and you have your brakes. And so the gas pedal is everything that signals to your brain that it's a good idea to have sex right now. And then the brakes, it's the opposite. All the things that tell your brain there are other priorities right now. When you go through stillbirth, you go through so many different emotions, right? We talked about the fear, the grief, the anger, the not understanding your body, not understanding your partner. You go through so many emotions. These quote unquote negative emotions, they will push your brakes system. They trigger your emergency response in your nervous system. So that means it's incompatible with desire because at a fundamentally biological level, you need to be in a place where it feels safe to feel desire. If you think back in cave times when we were chased by bears and tigers and all of that, you don't want to be all relaxed and turned on when there's an actual threat, do you?
It's true.
So your nervous system has to feel like, ooh, this is a good time to have sex. We're safe, everything feels good. And when you're in the midst of grief and anger and resentment and guilt, there's no place for desire
Yeah.
because your stress response is constantly activated. So this is the basic mechanism that explains why your body can't access desire in times where you're in that space.
So then it makes me think back to communication then with your partner. Like maybe you do want the closeness, but without the actual sex. So you could, so if you were able to communicate that, you could start to rebuild that and start to feel better.
Yeah, communication is definitely one of them, but also doing things that bring back the safety. So if your nervous system is triggered, you have that emergency response, right?
Mhm.
And one of the big component of the work that I do with my clients, finding your turn on is not the hardest part, but it's turning off the offs. It's
Mhm.
actually stopping everything that's pushing on that brake of your gas and brake system. So, for example, all the negative emotions that you have, the anger, the guilt, the pressure, all of this, it's addressing these so you naturally have space for desire. So, like you said, communicating and, for example, feeling close to your partner in non sexual ways, that's one way that's going to get you closer to feeling desire. Because there's another thing, there's a tool that I use in coaching that I think is incredibly helpful. Because oftentimes, as a woman, when you feel stuck and it's like you can't find the on button, like you want sex, but you just don't know where to start, there's a tool that I use that puts it so much simpler and that for me personally has revolutionized the way I see desire. So it's called the emotional floor plan. I'm going to try to explain it in a
Yeah,
condensed way because I think I have a whole
I
podcast
love this.
episode
Yeah.
just that. But so basically, neuroscience shows that we have seven core emotional systems. So basically, all of the emotions we feel can fit into those seven buckets. And if you think of these seven buckets as rooms in your emotional house, and you understand where each room sits, it's a game changer for intimacy because basically you have 3 out of 7 rooms that are anti-desire, arousal, and sex happening, right? And
Hmm.
these rooms are one called panic/grief. So that's where you feel isolated, disconnected, lonely, that type of feelings. You
Okay.
have a room called, oh, it's the anger room, basically. So
Mhm.
that's where you have feeling of anger, resentment, all of that. And then you have the fear room where you get scared. It feels like triggering, like danger wise.
Yeah.
Now, when you go through stillbirth, you often find yourself in one of those
I was
rooms.
gonna say those are, yeah, those are popular rooms for us.
Yeah, exactly. Disconnected from your body, from your partner, fear of being hurt again, having another baby, and all of that. All these emotions usually fit in these rooms. But when you see these rooms in your emotional house and you understand how your house operates and where every room sits, then you can see what's the next room next to where you are that will bring you one step closer to the sort of sex room. So
Mm,
if you want to find your way back to intimacy, and right now you're in the anger room because you resent your body completely. There's so many things that we can do. Work on your thoughts about your body. There's many things we can do, but sometimes the easiest way is to look at, okay, where is my anger room? Oh, okay, it's here. The sex room is all the way downstairs, right? But what's between my anger room and my sex room that can get me closer? And maybe in your emotional floor plan, that's the care room through cuddling with your partner or watching a movie together or doing something where you feel cared for. And so instead of forcing your way back to your sex room and feeling desire and arousal and all the juicy stuff, it's just, okay, what's the next step?
yeah.
Care. Okay, so let's do something where I feel cared for.
Yes. Yes. Or communicate that to your partner for
Absolutely.
them to make you do something to make you feel cared for.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
a broad concept,
Yeah.
and
That's no,
obviously
I love that though.
I'm
I
trying
love the
to.
visual of it. No, it's a great, yeah, because I think anytime you can compartmentalize what you're feeling, then you can, it's more manageable, more
Oh,
manageable.
definitely. Because most of the time when we go through whatever we're going through, you
Mhm.
just, the first emotion is you feel lost. You're okay, what do I do from here?
Yeah,
Like,
like
what,
this
how
is
do
it,
I
it's
get out of
over.
here?
I'll never be the same again.
Yeah, and this emotional floor plan concept is a game changer, not just for moms going through traumatic events, but everyone and every relationship.
Yeah.
Once you understand your emotional floor plan and your partner's, it's a game changer because you never have to force yourself to get to that sex room where you feel all the desire and the arousal and all of it. You just have to understand, okay, how do I get one step closer? And sometimes it's your partner that's not in the mood. And how do we get them one step closer? What would help them? What would help me? And how
Yeah.
do we find each other in the middle?
Good. How do you give yourself permission to enjoy pleasure again? Because I know lots of times with pleasure comes guilt, with happiness comes guilt. And it's almost like a signal that if we are feeling pleasure or happiness in any way, that it means that we're forgetting about our baby or we're leaving, like as long as we're in grief, in active grief, and we're in pain, then that somehow makes us feel like we're keeping our baby close to us. And as
Mhm.
soon as you start to move into some of these things where you're enjoying, where you're laughing
Yes.
or enjoying pleasure, you start to feel guilt. And how would we get, I think maybe your house just answered that,
Mm,
but just feeling that pleasure again, giving
yeah.
yourselves permission.
Well, like you said, I think the emotional floor plan for this is really helpful because if you're in the guilt room, then you can see, okay, the next rooms for me are either care or play, doing something fun, doing and just transitioning naturally. But again, I think it's due to conditioning. You know, who gave us this idea that choosing life means forgetting your baby or doing something wrong? At what point staying in grief is helping anyone? You, your baby, your family, it doesn't help anyone, but it's a conditioning that we have. So I think it's really just understanding that these thoughts are just sentences in our brain and also understanding where our brain is coming from. Because when we go through something like stillbirth, there's this massive trauma both from an emotional point of view and a physical point of view.
Yeah.
And our brain is basically wired for survival and it wants us to avoid pain, right? So your brain is going to be coming up with all the things that you have done wrong or that you could have
Mhm.
done differently, or because your brain truly believes, okay, if we fix everything that's quote unquote wrong or that we did wrong, we will prevent pain in the future and we will stay safe.
Yeah.
So it's also understanding that everything that your brain is offering you right now is coming from a place of wanting to avoid pain at all costs and wanting, and it can go even like really far. If you think from your brain's perspective, enjoying sex again means a potential other pregnancy, means a potential other loss, means a potential future
Yes.
pain.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
your brain can want to shut down any intimacy 10 miles before you
Yeah.
even think about
Like,
it because
here's
it's
how I
like,
prevent all of that. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So it's also going to shut down your libido. Now we're staying safe here. No libido means no future loss, means no future pain. So let's have no libido. So
Yeah.
I think it's also just understanding that it's okay to have these thoughts. It just means your brain is doing its job. Nothing has gone wrong, but it's also putting these thoughts back to where they belong. This is just my scared brain trying to protect me, trying to tell me to stay safe and to do all the things that, I'm supposed to be doing, and to not really pay too much attention to it. And again, step back into the body.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I know. Thank you so much for
Of course.
giving us hope again. I think it is in the permission to just re-examine it, take your time, do what feels
Yes.
right.
There's no
Start,
timeline.
take baby steps, starting, get the communication going or whatever you need so that talking about intimacy would be a huge first step for
Yeah.
a lost parent. And it probably would open up other conversations about your grief and how you're just connecting on so many other levels.
Yeah. I think honestly, the first thing that I would always say is take your time, don't be too hard on yourself, and specifically to intimacy, there is no timeline. I really want everyone to understand that there's no right time to get back on the horse. It doesn't matter if it's been days, weeks, months, or even years. You take the time that you need to take to grieve, to recover from all the physical and mental trauma. And even without stillbirth, just the pregnancy itself, it messes your entire system, your hormones, everything. So, women should really give themselves the permission to take all the time that they need. But then when they feel ready to be intimate again, when they feel that pull that says, okay, I want this again, but I don't know where to take this, that's where you can start seeking help towards that, whether it's coaching, therapy. And then there are, like I said, specific practices through gratitude, through mindfulness, being back into your body. There are many things that you can do that recenters you, calms your nervous system down, and that will give you access to pleasure with ease instead
Yes.
of forcing it.
Yes. Instead of just sitting in your thoughts, which is
Yes.
what we do, which sometimes gets us nowhere.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you
absolutely.
so much. Where can people learn more about what you do or how you can work with them? I will say I'm obsessed with your website. I just downloaded, you have a free little video series called Turned
Yes.
On. So I'm excited to dig into that, but where can people find out more about you?
Sure. I guess my website will probably be
I
linked
will,
in the
well, for sure.
episode.
Yep, I'll link it in the
So you have my website. It's Morganehorn, my first and last name.com. And there, like you said, there's Turned On. That's a free mini course on desire and how to create more desire in your relationship. And then I also have several coaching offers, but I would say the main one is my 3-month coaching program, Pleasured. And what I love about this coaching program is that you not only get, weekly coaching sessions with me, but there's a full online course with video teachings, workbooks, guided audios and meditations, and we dive deep into subjects like what we discussed today, building safety with your emotional system so that, you can access more desire. There's a whole chapter on co-creating a space for pleasure with your partner. There's tons of teaching on how your body works, how your desire works, practices to help you boost your libido, your desire, also practices to help you turn off the offs like stress, anxiety, and then a whole chapter on changing your thoughts, your mindset on sex so you can build a pleasure positive mindset. So it's packed with goodness. And yes, you can find it on my website. And I also have a Instagram account where I post inspiration and tons of good tips that you can start applying and see shifts right away.
It's so good because I think this is our pleasure is our birthright and
If
is a lifetime. These are skills that you will use throughout your lifetime. So I
yes,
definitely think if this is an area that is a concern of or something you want to improve on, this is it's a
yes.
great
And as you feel more pleasure in your life, it has a ripple effect on all areas of your life. Women are often taught to put their pleasure on the back seat because that's not, first of all, we're in a society that doesn't teach anything about female pleasure. We don't even know the name of our genitals. I understood that it wasn't called a vagina, but a vulva, the outer
yeah,
part, when I was something like 28 or 30 years old.
yeah.
Which is completely insane. So we're not taught anything about pleasure, about desire, orgasms, none of that. If you're lucky, you got some kind of sexual education at school where they told you about STDs and having babies.
They told you how to prevent things, but yeah,
Yes,
that was it.
exactly. And
Mhm.
so we're not taught anything about pleasure, but especially women, we're told to be caretakers, to take care of others, to put our needs last. And so most women don't even know where to start when it comes to their pleasure. And there's so many emotions tied to pleasure that get in the way, like shame, guilt, way beyond stillbirth. Just being a woman in a body and having pleasure is something that's not easy. And sexuality is a skill that we must learn. It's something that nobody teaches us, unfortunately. And so we get into a lot of situations that could be prevented if we had the information and if we knew more about our bodies.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for this conversation. I know it's such an
Thank you.
important one, and you brought so many great points for us to think about. And yeah, I will definitely link everything in the show notes so anyone who wants to find you and connect with you can find you there. So I appreciate
Thanks.
it.
Thanks for having me.